He says he hadn't told me because he worries it'll be too much for me. Boo. I fucking hate that excuse. Like, I get it. It's hard to see your partner upset, but like, I worry it'll be too much for you. I worry I'll hurt you. I think the flip side of that is I don't want the consequence of what I've done. Frank, not to be too blunt, and I don't think it's conscious a lot of the time, but like, I don't want to experience the shame or the, healing that I'll then have to do with you. I don't want, like, I feel avoidant, just be honest, be honest. Don't put it on like, you're so fragile, you know what I mean? Welcome to the Chill Polyamory Patreon only live chat, where the first Sunday of every month, I welcome all of my patrons 3 euros and up to come hang out, ask me whatever you want. And every other month, I do a bonus in the middle of the month. So here I am, halfway through May. What is up? What is good? So we talk about polyamory, non-monogamy, life in general. I offer feedback based off of my 13 years of experience of polyamory. Take what rings true and leave the rest. If you are watching this on YouTube afterwards and you want to come next time, it's $3. Ask me anything. It's a fraction of the price of like a one-on-one session. The link should be up here. Happy to welcome you. But if you do want to talk one-on-one, you can go to chillpolyamory.com. So happy to see you all here. So let's get started. First question that was emailed to me. My partner says she doesn't want to control me, but she would, quote, really appreciate it if I slow down and I don't date a specific person who threatens her. Ooh. She says she's just asking for what she wants, but I know that if I say no, she will go silent or avoid me for days. I feel like if I can't say no without punishment, then it does start to feel like control. Is it okay to ask that of me? And am I being insensitive for wanting to say no? You're in a very common situation. I hear about this every week. There's always somebody that I talk to that has this partner in distress who doesn't want to like tell you what to do, does like the idea of polyamory, does want to encourage, love all around, right? But then a person might hit their buttons more than another person, whether it's that they don't like them directly or the existence of them reminds them of like their insecurities, their past traumas, like for whatever reason. Some people bring up more in us than others. And while I usually say, as long as it feels okay to say no, ask whatever you want. As long as it feels okay to say no, right? But it sounds like it doesn't feel okay to say no in this situation. So in that case, if that's not being acknowledged as part of the package deal, like I'm just asking, like you're your own person, you can do what you want. But if there's punishment, if there's like retribution, then that's they're only saying half of the thing. So if that can be acknowledged, if that can be named, explored, what is it? Maybe it's not intended to be punishment. It's just like, she shuts down and needs alone time or something, and it's being received like animosity towards you. So I wonder if there could be more conversation about that, of like, what's happening to you when you do this? And the fact that you've done this in the past makes me like hesitant to tell you what I really want, or to, like say what I really need. And the thing is like, if you agree to something that you don't want to agree to, there will be a resentment, just period. It happens every time, of just like obligation of doing something that you want to do. If it's long-term, right? All of us in relationships, we're going to agree to be inconvenienced, right? Because we love people. But when it comes to like a structural part of your life, like agreeing to move somewhere, agreeing to take or reject an opportunity, or agreeing to be close to or reject a person, I've seen that really harm the relationship it was trying to protect. One thing that I like to come back to is like, what is this supposed to do? So you slow down or you don't date a person, what is that achieving? All right. Is it like lowering her stress? She doesn't have panic attacks as often. Is it reassuring her that you are going to commit to her, that you won't leave her? What is it? What is the point of that? And if her idea of slowing down or completely breaking off contact, if that would create new problems, then is there another way to do what it was trying to do? Trying to reassure her, have her anxiety be supported more. I don't like your idea, though, of how to do that. So are there other ideas? Can I spend more time with you, reassure you in certain ways? Do you want to expand your own support network so you have more people to lean on when the anxiety comes up? Do you have access to therapy to really dig into whatever trauma might come up? I don't know what it is for her, but a request like that usually has some big feelings behind it. And if everybody is agreeing to explore polyamory, we have to confront those feelings, And if somebody doesn't want to, they're able to do that. But it's a package deal with polyamory is like really committing to changing ourselves. We're changing ourselves. We're not just like adding extra people. We're changing the way that we relate to people. We're challenging all of the stories we were told about what love should look like, about what safety should look like, right? We're looking our trauma square in the eye. Sometimes I get this comment of like, if it's hard, if it triggers your trauma, why do it? And I'm like, monogamy triggered my trauma too. Right? Like I hated monogamy because I'm not a monogamous person. It doesn't work for me. And I would have jealousies and insecurities about their coworker, about their like collaborator in an art project. And I would have that same like trauma shit come up because that's my baggage. That's what I'm carrying with me into every relationship that I do. It wasn't the polyamory that made that happen. And I knew that this is my work that I got to confront if I'm going to have a good time doing life. This is what I got to confront if I'm going to be at ease, regardless of who I bring close to me. And polyamory often gets, just a blanket blame because it can be more activating more often, right? In monogamy, my experience was that I didn't have to look at stuff necessarily. I could get away with like avoiding it. Of like, oh, that really made me anxious or upset, but I'm reassured because I got you on lock, right? You've kind of locked down and committed to me. So then I bypass having to even explore what that angst was, what that insecurity was, what trauma just came up for me just now. Oh, no, I don't have to deal with it because I can just tell myself this story of safety. I'm just talking about my own experience. But that work still needed to be done. And in polyamory, it's a lot harder to bypass it. Like if you're going to enjoy yourself, we really got to look at it. And stepping away from it remains an option. You're grown, but then you might not have a good time doing this. You might continue to be activated constantly. So why do this? Why challenge ourselves? If you want this, I do think it comes down to motive. If people are pushing themselves in polyamory because they're scared of losing a person, or they don't want to, but they are dragging their feet because their partner is like trying to guilt them into it, right? Like whatever the motive is, if it's not coming from desire for polyamory, then it becomes a bit of a trickier question to answer of like, do you want to do this? You don't have to grow in any direction you don't want to grow. But if you want polyamory, if this is who you are, if this is how you love, then there's another side to it. There's the distress and all of your shit gets brought up, and it can be processed, it can be digested. It very much matters with whom. With whom I'm fancy tonight. It very much matters who's around you. Partner choice matters. Support network matters a lot. Because if a partner is lying and cheating and betraying you, it's just going to make it worse, right? Like we can't heal if we continue to be hurt, So once I got around people that had some stability and gave me space and like broke the pattern, my fear did not come true, right? I was able to heal. And I really feel like a lot of that shit is in the rearview mirror now, And so if you want that, it's possible. It's why I named the whole account Show Polyamory, because I was like, I don't know, my life is kind of boring now. It's like kind of mundane. And a lot of people were like, how? Tell me how, I would love boring, And I was like, oh, okay. yeah, let's talk about the path to relaxation. It is not an easy one for a lot of people, and it is very attainable. So coming back to your question of like your partner wanting you to stop seeing a person, why, what would that do? And is that an attempt to avoid some sort of internal work as well? Do you also have a role in that of reassuring her and, behaving in a way that makes her feel more secure in your relationship? It takes two to tango. And yeah, if there is some punishment afterwards, what is that, Because even if you were monogamous, this dynamic would show up in some way, Just in polyamory, it gets bigger and more frequent because of more people. I don't encourage agreeing to something that you would resent or feel controlled by. I don't encourage that at all. I hope that helps. I went on a little bit of a rant. Next question in the chat. My partner and I have been together 2.5 years and poly the whole time. I've asked that he tell me before going on a get together whether or not he's interested in that person romantically or sexually so that I don't have to deal with the surprise. We both like to live in a way that could always start as nothing and turn sexual or romantic, right? Like, so you want some spontaneity, you want room for that. And it continues, he's somewhat of a lover boy and a slut, and I love that. And he can move fast. Since this could usually be the case, that the get-together turns sexual and romantic, the potential's always there, so he's finding it difficult to communicate this beforehand. Like, he's finding it hard to tell you how it's gonna be if he's a live-in-the-moment spontaneous guy, right? I get that. He is, however, always happy to communicate how they met or set up the get-together, etc. So do you have advice for finding compromise so that I can feel safe? It's so frequent that, people who live in the moment and have spontaneity and a bit more looseness with how they plan or how they relate to people, often they'll be close to one or more partners will be a bit more like, I like structure, I'm good at planning, I'm the calendar person, I'm not saying that that's entirely you, I'm just saying I see this pairing a lot, yin and yang. I don't know if there's as well any neurodivergence in the mix, right? Sometimes people have ADHD and they struggle to commit to certain things of like, a person will say, oh, can you text me, at such and such time so that I'm not surprised or so that I know when you're going to be home. And the ADHD is like, derails that or makes it impossible for them to really follow through. And then that creates a problem. So is there any accommodation, I guess, is also a question that I bring to this sort of scenario. But yeah, finding compromise so you can feel safe. Would it be helpful to assume that every time he goes out is going to be sexual? Would that be helpful? Probably wouldn't be fun. But if you assume like the more extreme version of it and adjust for that, and he comes back and it was just coffee, then that probably wouldn't be an unpleasant surprise, I'm guessing. But the inverse, I don't know, they're just a friend or they're just a coworker, come back, oh my God, we made out and I want to go on a date. That's an unpleasant surprise. So that's personally how I've started to frame things, including in managing other people's expectations. I genuinely have gone out with people in like a coworker setting. It's like freelance artists and stuff. We're not like in an office, but and just thought, oh, we're just going to brainstorm. We're just going to talk about this project. And then it gets carried away and then it's 2 a.m. and I want to go home with them. And I'm like, fuck, I said it was just like a work collab, right? And I mismanaged the expectations of partners. So that is also something that I've set up a bit in the inverse, is saying like, they are cute. I currently don't feel an impulse for that, but I know me and we're going to be drinking. So let's assume I'm going to stay out, frankly. And if I come home, cool. So would that be helpful? I don't know. That is not everybody's go-to. Sometimes there's more distress at frequently assuming the more extreme thing. But yeah, that's tends to be how I like quote unquote plan for spontaneity. I hope that that's helpful. Otherwise, continuing, when it comes to anxiety about not knowing what to expect, I've been working on fostering trust in my future self. And what I mean by that is, even if my worst fear comes true, will I be okay? Like, will I be okay, actually? Even if this person leaves me, if it's just me, will I figure it out? Will I be okay? That has been grounding for me, so I say it in case that might help you, because the answer is yeah, I've always figured it out. I've always gotten me to a place that was okay. I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, but I know the me tomorrow will be able to figure that out. And continuing to like root my own stability in my gut, in me, and not in the outcome of what happens around me. And like kind of meditating on that, frankly. Even though I don't do like formal meditation, I just kind of sit with it. And I'm like, I won't be dead by morning if that happens, you know? I got me. I won't let me stay in something that sucks. So that has helped a lot too with the unknown. But maybe you don't trust yourself yet, and that's when we work on building the pattern of, actions that will build trust in yourself and in your relationships. Next question. My partner and I have been in a long-distance relationship for the entirety of our 2-year relationship, and I'm planning to move to the same city as her later this summer. Cool. She is married, has kids, owns a home with her other partner, and I'm not seeing anyone else right now. We're both so excited to be in the same city, but a lot of details that we have not had to deal with by living across the country from each other will be new. Yeah, fair. And we are both feeling a little nervous because we don't know what it will look like. Any tips, ideas, resources for the upcoming changes? I mean, a bit of the previous answer applies, of not knowing entirely what the surprises will be, and trusting that you've got like tools. Maybe you don't feel like you have tools yet. Maybe that's what this question is. But how do you and your partner deal with the unexpected? How do you talk about it? How frequently do you check in? How do you take care of each other? Does somebody have pain points around like feeling neglected? Okay, how could that show up? Let's brainstorm, like how can I try to prevent you from accidentally feeling neglected? Whatever it is that your pain points are, that can be a point where we're like kind of trying to game out some possibilities. But I think it's so nice to focus on what will we do when I feel hurt, not if, but when I feel hurt. We hurt each other, unfortunately, in relationships. So whenever I feel hurt, how do I bring that up? Do I feel like I could bring that up to you, or am I worried about your reaction? What is our best practices? What is the protocol? Basically, not to be too, clinical with it, but just trusting that since you can't imagine all of the possible scenarios that will happen, trusting that you have a plan in place for how to deal with a surprise feeling and what to do next. I suddenly am surprised that this is happening. I'm not okay. We agreed we would talk about it this way. We agreed I would bring it up like that. They promised that we would, that like resolving something would be a priority, That can be helpful because then you actually have something actionable to do next. You have a place to put those feelings, like processing them, and also what do we do about it? So yeah, kind of getting clearer on what you're going to do together, and what your safety net is, or what your toolbox contains. Maybe that's a better metaphor. Then it can feel a little bit less like you have to predict every possible thing. One thing that I've seen with long distance coming back to local is, I don't know if this is your experience, but sometimes long distance feels like vacation partner, or like it can be very intense. Like I'm with you 24/7 because I only have this week with you. And so you have all of my undivided attention and time, and we, exist in this certain way. And then all of a sudden it's nothing again. Or not nothing, but it's digital, it's not touch, it's, it's in a different cadence and rhythm. So when people then move and you're together, it can be an adjustment to have this new routine of like, oh, I'm only seeing you like one time this week. Like that can be a bit of a blow. That can that can kind of ache. That can kind of suck. So I hope that it doesn't for you, but just know that that's an adjustment, you know? But it's almost like going from new relationship energy into more of a stable routine. I know you've been together for 2 years, but it's sort of like the intensity that can exist as part of a long distance relationship and moving that into like more of like a long-term like rhythm and routine in person. And try not to take that personally, you know? But in general, whenever somebody is married, has a home, has kids, has like other commitments locally, then I get really practical as well as like, how much time do you literally have? You know, what can I expect? I don't want to set myself up to be disappointed. Please, can you be like real with yourself and with me on what I can expect? Like, don't overpromise. Don't get optimistic about what you're able to do this month. You know, like I want to be practical. And I think that can also help keep things steady, is to the best of your ability, try and understand what time and energy everybody has. And see how it goes. You know, you can adjust as you go. You'll get new information every week. Oh, apparently I feel this way. Apparently, if we're hanging out and your husband texts you or your partner texts you, now that we're local, it's like bothering me, even though it never bothered me on a trip. For example, right? Like there will be things that surprise you. That's good information. I wonder what we do about that. Do we do anything about that? Do I just process that? Or is that trying to tell me something about how I feel in general about your relationship in like a local way of like, you know, am I feeling more protective of my time because it's more limited type of deal? Like you'll get surprises like that and you talk about it. And as a team, like you collaborate on what you might try to address it, basically. So I wouldn't stress. I would try not to dwell. I'll say it this way. I would try not to dwell in hypotheticals for too long. I would try not to dwell in like prepping for specific scenarios too terribly much. If you can get a sketched out plan of like what you can generally expect, and then you fill in more of the specifics as you go once you get there. And like I said, if you have an understanding between each other of how you're going to heal or like address pain points and things, and if that happens, then that can also be stabilizing. I hope that helps. Next question in the chat. My long distance partner and I have been together for 5 years, and I've been his only relationship, whereas I had a nesting partner since previously. While I identify as polyamorous, he's been monogamous before. He's now the past 2 months become friends with benefits with one of his roommates, which I'm really happy for him about. I wouldn't mind if feelings developed there, but he's not there yet, but enjoying the company and the cuddles. Okay, so they're getting close. They have a physical element to their relationship as well. We made an agreement early on that he'd tell me if they've been intimate or spent the night at our next weekly call as an update, but for a few weeks he didn't bring it up. And then when I asked him about her and the situation, he told me they had been intimate and spending the night a lot, actually. When you say they had been intimate, you mean like they slept together? Because cuddling is intimate too, so I don't know what he was withholding there, or like what line was crossed. Yeah. He says he hadn't told me because he worries it'll be too much for me. Boo! I fucking hate that excuse. Like, I get it. It's hard to see your partner upset, but like, I worry it'll be too much for you. I worry I'll hurt you. I think the flip side of that is I don't want the consequence of what I've done. Frank, not to be too blunt, and I don't think it's conscious a lot of the time, but like, I don't want to experience the shame or the, healing that I'll then have to do with you. I don't want, I feel avoidant, just be honest. Don't put it on like, you're so fragile, you know what I mean? I've told him that since the withholding, not really sticking to our agreement, and his almost don't ask, don't tell approach hurts more and makes me feel blindsided instead. Yeah. And he said he'll be better about it from now on. Is there anything I could do to help him along the way? Yeah. And you're saying like, I don't know if it's mononormativity or what about his perception of your quote unquote fragility. That's what I'm saying, right? He's putting it on you that he's not being honest with you. Now, I'm not all or nothing on most things, you know? So is there, like, in terms of what you have control over, my question is usually like, what is it about my reactions that you don't want to experience, or like that makes it hard to tell me things from your perception, right? What is it that is happening that is a block for you to say something? And I want to like explore that a bit more, because sometimes it literally is like, I'll get really heated, or I'll start interrupting, or if my voice starts to raise, like sometimes there are notes that I could internalize to improve like the continued dialogue being, you know, productive. You know, sometimes I've had to take those notes, even in being upset. It really depends. Like, we don't want to tone police. It's just more of like, if I then basically have a conversation ender by like blowing up or walking out, or, you know, if it then turns into me versus you instead of us together, I've made adjustments so that I didn't then set off the other person's trauma. Because like when a raised voice happens, now they're remembering their parent who used to yell and like, you know, react. And then it's just nothing good is going to come out of that. And so I do think it's a team effort to try and self-soothe and be regulated and stay in it, easier said than done. So maybe there are some notes that he's trying to offer you. And he lied, you know? And can he own that? And can he internalize that omission is a lie? You know, I'm carrying on with you not knowing that happened, right? It's effectively the equivalent of you asking if it happened and he says no. You carry on thinking that it didn't happen. So it's not okay. Like you said, the withholding is now making it worse for you. And if it genuinely is that he doesn't want to hurt you, if it's genuinely like, I don't want to cause you pain, okay, then don't withhold. You do the work to really sit with how uncomfortable it is to say a hard thing, and you say the hard thing anyway. And what are the blocks if you're not able to say the hard thing, right? Is there trauma from the past? Like sometimes it's not even just this. It's like bigger because of other shit, you know? Okay, what's that other shit? We want to be aware of all of it. And we don't keep each other in the dark, if that's the agreement, you know? So it's a pattern that I think is imperative to break if any form of non-monogamy is going to feel sustainable. If I don't think you're going to be straight with me, I'm not going to rest when you go on a date. But if I know from a pattern of you've been direct, you've been upfront, you've not surprised me with anything, you come home and you're always loving, now a date doesn't feel threatening to me, right? So much of security in non-monogamy of any kind is security in your own relationship. And lying and withholding about anything makes the relationship less secure. So whatever work needs to be done to make that easier to do, and to like you can, when he does it, validate that. Even if you're upset, like, I'm upset at what you're saying and thank you for telling me. You know, I've had to say that before. It's like, okay, I'm really upset. You did what I asked you to do. So you're doing the right thing. I'm upset. I'm going to go take a minute, right? Like holding both of those at the same time. I've seen it be really helpful to, you know, give positive like reinforcement and encouragement when a person has also taken a note, when a person is also pushing themselves, you know? So being a cheerleader for our partner as well, of like them trying to grow, that can help. And that can feel good, because a lot of times when we're like having talks in relationship, when we're having like a serious talk, a lot of times it's, I notice this hurts and that's bad and I want you to change this. Like, we often bring things to each other when we're unhappy, and there's so much value in just noticing, oh, hey, you did the thing I asked you to do. Thank you. You know, even a little thing, oh, like, you said you were going to do laundry and you did laundry, right? I didn't think you were gonna, you know, or whatever. Thank you. Thank you. Validating when somebody listens, validating when someone, pushes themselves, when they do something on purpose to help you feel safer, on purpose to be kind, validating that can also go a long way. Because then we want to do it more, and we feel like, okay, cool, I'm not just always getting told when I mess up. So that's another thing that I think being in your position that you have the option to do. But yeah, it's his job to bring things up. You don't want to have to bring things of that nature up. You don't want to have to be guessing and trying to pull it out of him and ask the perfect right worded question to get clarity. Can he be real? Is he willing to? And if that's too stressful, if that's too hard, don't be non-monogamous, because it's just going to get messy. There's just going to be too many sensitive things that would then be withheld, and it will break a relationship just over and over again. I've seen that happen. So, if it's not something that wants to be worked on, then non-monogamy will make it worse. Let me put it that way. Hope that helps. Next question in the chat. I have a challenging meta. One day she's super supportive and sweet, encouraging my boyfriend to come see me spontaneously or inviting me to family events. And the next day she creates new quote unquote boundaries that are really unfair rules, like if she and my boyfriend have a fight within a few days of a date, then he's not allowed to see me. What? Why is he agreeing to that? Period. Frankly, he's also granting her that power. So what's up, Hinge? They are married and nesting and have kids, and I'm solo poly. We're all pretty new at this. I've been diligent with trying to be supportive for the both of them, but she and I are not dating, and I know that these are issues that they have to work through together. Very much in love with him, but sometimes it's so stressful for me to come back, for me to have to endure this constant back and forth. Some days are absolutely wonderful, and some days I wonder why in the world I'm doing this with him. Do you have any insight or advice? We don't want a fair weather boyfriend, right? We don't want a fair weather meta. The stability in non-monogamy, the ease, it comes with knowing we'll work through the hard days. There's a storm and our agreement will still be upheld, right? Like an emotional storm. That I am told I matter, and that gets confirmed when it's inconvenient for you to come over and you still did because you said you would, or you're in an argument with them and you're still showing up with me. He's in 2 relationships, right? You said you're in love with him. This doesn't sound like a casual thing or like a, more distanced thing. And so he chose to commit to 2 people. He needs to commit to 2 people. And that sounds really stressful and hurtful. This up and down, this you only get to have your relationship look a certain way depending on how their relationship looks. Can there be empathy, within the Hinge at the very least, for what that feels like? Can there be some sitting still and imagining being on the receiving end of that? Empathy really needs to be a huge part of, especially new. You said you're all pretty new at this. Can we imagine being in the other person's shoes? Now, to that end, I've also been in your meta's shoes where, I don't know what her motives are, but just it sounds like they have a pretty nuclear family, married, nesting kids, right? That for a lot of people can be something they hold on to for safety. And so when they're feeling safe, they don't feel threatened. Sure, let's have this be flexible. But when they're feeling unsafe, lock it down because this is my safety. And that's a big thing I help a lot of people with, is finding a new definition of safety, right? I honestly kind of wish more monogamous people I could work with, because that will happen in monogamous marriages where their marriage is their safety and then their husband fucking leaves, right? There's no promise forever. There's no promise forever. And so rooting stability in the nuclear family, that can break in monogamy as well. And so I really encourage people to can security be rooted in, 1, your trust in yourself, that you've got you, come what may, your trust in your partner of how they will treat you, right? Of how they will treat you. So if a partner breaks an agreement, well, now I need you to rebuild trust with me, right? But I'm not going to then say, I'm going to punish your other partner. I'm going to punish you. Like, I don't want power over people. But when people are scared, frankly, the most abuses of power I've seen in polyamory are when people are terrified. So we address the fear, we have compassion for the fear or the anxiety or whatever it is, maybe pain, maybe some hurt was caused. I don't know. You don't have to know. You're not in their marriage. It's just a matter of this is a team effort. And even if I don't know my metas, they're on my extended team. They're in my extended community. So I've never met some of my metas. And if they have an agreed event happening, I'm not going to try and impose, well, I have a need, so you have to stay with me and not go to that event, right? Like, I'm going to be respectful even if I don't have a relationship with the person. So is there willingness to go in that direction? I have a lot of grace for people who are newer, and it's just not a practice that has been like, if you've been doing one thing for decades, then it's going to be hard to like turn the ship. You're turning a giant ship slowly, right? Like, so I have a lot of patience to a point with people who struggle, and we want to stop immediately harming behaviors because you're being harmed now, today, right? Your relationship is being controlled by someone you're not dating, and he's letting it happen. He's not advocating for your relationship to be seen as valid and to be seen as a priority. That is not, he doesn't have to be like, like relationship anarchist he doesn't have to be the most, anti-hierarchical person to at least say, I'm going to treat this person with respect and not bail on them just because we had a bad day, right? Like, let's be real. Can there be empathy for what that feels like? And what are other solutions that he can figure out with his spouse to like calm that anxiety or address that fear that don't hurt you, right? Fixing them shouldn't hurt you. Like, their safety shouldn't be at your expense. So can there be some creativity over there of other ways that aren't locking it down? Otherwise, why are they welcoming new people into their life? If you're not willing and able to welcome new people into your life on a bad day, if you're not willing to push yourself in that way and try new methods of soothing, do not welcome new people into your life. Because there will be bad days. And this roller coaster you've described is, I'm so sorry you're on that, because it's a powerless feeling. And I think that kind of behavior has to stop if you're going to stick around, right? Like you said, you're wandering frequently. Why am I even doing this? So you have the option to walk away if you don't feel respected, or if the pattern winds up being more pain than pleasure. You have that option. I do hope that there can be a collaboration with your partner on a new way of dealing with that kind of thing. Okay, next question is a dating advice question. How do you broach the topic of coming out as poly or interested in someone when they are someone who knows you and your nesting partner together, and they assume that that's a monogamous unit? My partner and I are new to opening up, and many of our friends know us as a long-term couple. But he's interested in dating one of our friends. I've been trying to give them space when we all hang out so that they have some time to connect separately. But it would be helpful to have some examples of how you've actually brought this up with a new person. I know there's not one right way. So this person that he's interested in, like, do they know that, like, is this the person you're talking about in terms of like bringing it up? Or is it more like your friend circle that, you're trying to give these two space to explore that, but the other friends don't know? And now you're like, oh, the optics of this, yeah, because sometimes people would be like, hey, are they cheating on you? You know what I mean? Like, if they don't know. I've usually heard people say, we are exploring this. We don't really know what it looks like. And so if you ever feel awkward or if you ever have a question, here's how I would love for you to come to me. Like, please do ask me something. Like, I want you to feel, this is the you to the friend. Like, I want you to feel like, you can say something if something feels off. And so it's like inviting the person to also be able to speak up or something. I think it's only weird if you make it weird, usually. If someone has a sit down serious talk and like, maybe it calls for that. Sometimes it calls for that if there's been a lot of drama around polyamory in the past in a friend group, right? Like, I'm not, like saying it's never a good idea to have a serious sit down talk, but sometimes people feel really big about it or feel really scared about it. And then they create this stressed scenario to like announce it. And it puts this pressure on yourself and on everyone else when there could be maybe more organic ways rooted in how you know the person, rooted in how close you are, rooted in like who it's relevant to, kind of coming up with the idea from that place rather than, I have a duty to inform or, I have something to tell you, and then it's vague and then a friend starts spiraling. What are you telling me? Like it's usually only really very heavy if you set it up to be heavy. It's only really intense if you make it intense. It has been my experience. But yeah, good luck. Next question in the chat. Me and my partner are experiencing a breakup. We want to keep our friendship and build on the platonic bond we have. However, in this current moment, I have a lot of resentment towards my meta. It hurts that they can continue with their romantic aspect of the relationship while we're experiencing this shift. Part of me feels like time will help as me and my partner take space. Any advice on navigating this space? My meta did want to reach out to me, but I don't feel ready. It's grief to a large degree. And a lot of grief comes from seeing like, oh, so you want this, just not with me, right? Like that's a stab in the gut. And so seeing like the meta then starting to sort of represent that. And we don't want to. We want to keep humanizing the person and being like, it's not this person. They are not doing anything to me. Well, I'm assuming they're not doing anything to you. It sounds like a breakup's happening and your meta is like even wanting to be kind and you don't have to talk with them if you're not ready yet, but just like try to notice if your brain is trying to like make a symbol out of the meta or transpose all of your like anger and frustration or anything that feels unresolved with the partner. Sometimes it can then take a turn and go towards the meta because that's like easier to get mad at that person or to express anger at that person. So just notice if that's happening. And I try to like either reroute it or let it go and find people to vent to, frankly. Like during grief, I need people I can talk to and be messy. So do you have people you can talk to and be messy, that you can vent and you can say every awful thing that's in your head and you can say, I wish they would break up and like, fuck them for doing this. And you know that you don't have to self-censor and you can actually process all your emotions. Are there people you can go to for that who, will be able to listen to that and not be involved or at least be able to step back and, comfort you. And so that's been really important, is really actually feeling the feelings and like going through it. And there are waves. You said you're taking some space. That often is really helpful for people going through breakups, but then they want to establish a new kind of friendship. They like need a refractory period of just like, I need to not see you for a minute. I need to feel these things and go through it. And it's going to be harder to do that if I keep seeing you every day. I support that if that feels helpful. But what is your relationship with grief? Have you gone through grief before? Do you have things that have helped you in the past? Or do you have people who have gone through this kind of grief or heartache, even if it's not related to polyamory, if it's related to loss, if it's related to a feeling of rejection, the core feeling there, I'm pretty confident you have people in your orbit who will be able to relate to that core feeling, even if the circumstances look different, right? And can you lean on people who get that and can talk to you from there? And then you walk through it, you move through it. because you deserve to be close with someone who wants and is so excited to be close with you, right? Like you deserve, if you're having romance with someone, I want you to be like on the receiving end of someone's love eyes that they're so in love with you. And like, you know, like I wouldn't want you to be in a relationship with someone who can't reciprocate in that way. You know, I wouldn't want you to like be seeking romance from someone who's like guarded and won't give you that. So it ultimately will free up that energy and free up that space for like in your life, literally the time, the effort, the thinking, you know, it'll free that up a little bit in the long run to make room for someone who's so excited to be in that role, you know? And that's something you can look forward to. Sometimes we have to have like a vacancy, kind of like a feeling of loss or feeling of emptiness before other connections arrive. And I'm not saying it happens overnight, but it creates opportunity when maybe if you were like so focused on trying to make this other relationship square peg round hole, you know, if that was taking all of your energy, maybe there wasn't an opportunity for other people to happen, other people who could better fit that role. So there is grief and loss, and there's also opportunity, you know, it's opening up what's next, who could happen to you. What's your relationship with yourself? Do you want to feel closer to yourself? Do you want to feel like you're getting to know yourself in a new way? Take yourself on adventures, like feed and water your own interests, feed and water your friendships that feel like stabilizing to you. Anything that can be stabilizing and grounding, hang the hell onto that during this time. Yeah, and go day by day. Go day by day. Try not to plan the next month ahead, the next few months ahead. Like you're on a bit of a roller coaster, it sounds like. So ride that with people who can hold on to you and help you feel like you're not alone in it. Once there's a feeling of like a little bit more consistent peace with it, or like a little bit more consistent acceptance, then usually like the planning of like, okay, what does our friendship look like? You know, it's usually a clearer headspace to be at when deciding things, you know. So I'm glad you're giving yourself that like breathing room to digest it. Okay, I think we have time for one more question in the chat. A long-term relationship recently ended. We had a good time together, but the last few months were kind of hard. And I asked myself a lot if this is a hardship we have to work through or a sign that the relationship doesn't work anymore. Any tips for figuring out the difference? I don't say this as a hard and fast rule. Please know that. I will say very often when someone asks, is this a sign? It's because they're like, a part of them is already wanting a sign, right? I usually don't see signs unless I'm like, a part of me is looking for them, if that makes sense. Feel free to push back if this rings false. But whenever someone says, is this a sign to do it? I'm like, has part of you decided you already want to do it, you know, and is looking for validation externally to do what some or all of you wants to do or has already decided to do. I don't know. So yeah, the question of like, is this a sign already, to me is a sign, if that makes sense, just from my experience and opinion. Yeah, I mean, any tips for figuring out the difference? Like, I usually try to sit with like, okay, my mind is spinning. It's concocting all of these narratives. Oh, maybe they could, you know, change. They've changed in the past. Maybe they could do this and that and that. And I'm future tripping on maybe it'll be different, you know? And then I spiral in the other direction and I'm like, it'll never work. You know, I need to just drop this and let this go. It's like whenever my mind is doing this like chaotic, you know, cartwheels everywhere, if it's possible to just try and sit with like, what am I feeling right now? I'm feeling anxious. I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling mad, you know, and like trying to come back down into, you know, your nervous system or your body, you know, it's like the brain just gets carried away and it can be so like it can spin and waste energy and not feel like you're getting anywhere. But like if you come back to like, wait, what am I feeling right now? That can then from that place, you're like, okay, I'm feeling sad. Answer quickly. Do you want to see them today? Right? Like that more simply can tell you what your gut is saying it wants to do, where your body wants to be. I'm not excited to talk to them. Okay, good to know, right? Rather than, well, maybe if I talk to them, we'll do this, or maybe if they talk to me, they'll do that. I don't want to talk to them. I'm not excited about that idea. You know, like coming back into what do you want in this moment? How do you feel in this moment? That can be a good source of information of what your motives are. Because whenever someone asks like, I don't know, how do I know if this is right for me? I really feel like it's a process of just getting back to your own intuition, and it can be like cloudy and we don't trust ourselves, and maybe we've made bad decisions in the past and we don't feel like connected to that. It's like, okay, well then just in this moment, what do you want to do? When you think of their face, do you smile? You know what I mean? It's like, can you make it simple and come back to at least an emotion, basic in your body emotions, right? And that gives you info, you know? If the motive is fear, I don't want to be alone, or, you know, notice that. And do you want, I don't want to be alone, to be the reason you do something? For example, I'm not saying, you know, or I'm really anchored in a love with them and they have shown signs of commitment to change. They have shown progress, not just said words, but I've seen actions. And I love them and I think I want to take the risk. That feels good to me, to take the risk to try this with them. Okay, do I like that reason? So what is the motive? And then the brain can come in and help and decide, is that really what I want? Do I really want I'm scared to be the reason I chose a life path, out of fear? That's what I would suggest in whatever way. I hope that's not a little bit too like airy-fairy abstract. Feelings and emotions come in your body. You know what I mean? But I literally mean like sitting still and just trying to like quiet your brain and notice what your body's doing. Even if you don't know what the emotions are, of just like, okay, when I think about that, I get hot and my heart races, for example. Like what is literally happening in your body? And can you put words to it? But if not, can you at least notice what the symptoms are? My stomach hurts, Then that can be a place to start in terms of what you wind up deciding you want to do. So I hope that that's helpful. Maybe I should practice not saying that after each thing. I'm so aware that I've said that after each thing I said today. I mean, it's true. I do hope I've been helpful. So I'm like a little, I guess, insecure. That's a strong word. But, I'm wanting to like cover my bases of like, reasserting my intention for whatever I just said. I think that's also true is like, I'm quite aware that I can be direct and blunt. The other day, I told someone like, oh, well, it sounds like they're steamrolling you, because it sounded, what they were describing is their partner steamrolling them. So I just said it like that. And the person was like shocked. And I was like, oh shit, was that a little too blunt? Like, I don't, I see a thing and I say a thing, and I hope that my intent of warmth and compassion comes through. But apparently sometimes I'm a little harsh without meaning to be. So yeah, I think there's an impulse to consistently reassert where I'm coming from with it, and I welcome any pushback if, again, I could take notes on my delivery. Side tangent aside. Thank you so much for being here. If you do want other things from me, if you're on YouTube, and you want more things from me, there are hundreds of polyamory resources, essays, long form videos on Patreon for $3. You can see what you see, or €3. And I also have my other YouTube channel, which is my fun one. And I just did 25 years of polyamory and cartoons. So Chill Polyamory. For that. That's my main channel, and there's a link to it on this channel's page. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you, patrons, for supporting me and paying my bills. And I look forward to seeing you in a couple of weeks at the monthly chat. So take care, and I'll see you later. Okay, bye. Mwah.